So while Jack shares up the slide deck, I just wanted to thank everybody for joining this session and for the opportunity to really, talk about what support is and kind of re-engage with our customers. Sometimes the support is the only contact with you that you have with Ex Libris or Clarivate. So it's really important that we get this piece right because it really determines the success of how you're working with our company and everything like that. So, a lot of the topics we're going to discuss are not new. A lot of them are, will be familiar to you, but there's been some changes as we've grown as a support entity and gone through different ownerships and things like that. So some of these insights might be a little bit changes and things that we're going to do, and then at the end we'll talk about insights of what's going on. I want to have Callie and Jack, who, Jack is the manager over the Discovery team, and Callie is the manager over the Alma team. So these two people are integral to the success of customer care in North America. And I want to let them introduce themselves just to say hi. And they're going to be presenting today as well. So I'll turn it over to you, Callie.
Hi, I'm Callie Mendoza, and as Matt said, I manage the regional Alma team. I've been with Ex Libris for 11 years, and all of that time has been with Alma. Currently on my team, there are 9 analysts. About half of them have their master's in library science and have worked in library spaces. The other half are more technical based and have worked, different types of applications outside of the library world, but are now getting used to the library world. But we definitely have a wide range of experiences, and we definitely value the team members that have that library experience, so that we can really get an understanding of what you all are doing each and every day. Um, and I am based out of the Chicago area. And I think that covers everything. So I'll turn it over to Jack.
Hi, everybody. I'm Jack Betcher, and I'm managing the Discovery support products. So that includes the North America Regional Primo and Leganto support teams, as well as the global support for Summon and SFX. I've been with the company for about 10 years and have also been in support the whole time. I started managing the Primo support team about 4 or 5 years ago, and we have a great Primo support team in North America led by our team lead, Lori. And similar to the Alma team, it's kind of a mix of backgrounds. We're a little bit skewed more to the technical side, not as many like library backgrounds, but we do have some backgrounds in library science. And then we have people who have worked in other kind of technical roles and software roles. And so it's a great team. Hopefully you've had a chance to open a case and work with them. If not, that's a lot of what we're going to be talking about today. And I'm based in Nashville, Tennessee.
All right, Jack, let's get this started.
All right. So this is our agenda for today. We're going to start off by talking a little bit about kind of a refresher on how we envision the customer care experience, what we call the support journey with customer care, and just a refresher on best practices for creating support cases, some issues you might run into when you're creating support cases. Then we'll talk a little bit about our the structure of our support team, the meaning of all those different case statuses, how you can get assistance with those most kind of priority issues, talking about escalations and system down cases. We'll talk a little bit about our satisfaction survey, so how you can give us feedback at the end of the experience to let us know how it went and how we use that feedback. And then Matt's going to talk a little bit about how we use AI in customer care and some of our recent support initiatives. So I'm going to start it off and talk about this support journey with customer care. And what we mean by the support journey with customer care is just from the moment that you have a question or encounter a problem in Alma or Primo, what are your options for getting that issue resolved? How can we work with you to get it resolved? And we kind of see it as this cycle. Before you contact us, you may choose to look at some of the self-service options. The most kind of familiar of those will probably be the Knowledge Center, where our documentation is available, but there's some other self-service options as well. Then, of course, you have the opportunity to open a case with us or a chat session with us to get assistance. Once you've opened that case, we're going to talk a little bit about how we work on and resolve cases. That's going to get into the different case statuses, escalations, support team structure, and then sharing feedback. That's where we're going to talk about those case satisfaction surveys. So how we use that information that you share, on the customer experience, the case experience at the end of it. So with that, I want to talk first about some of those self-service options, and this is just some highlights of some of the self-service options. This is not an exhaustive list, but probably most of you are familiar with the Knowledge Center at knowledge.xlibrisgroup.com. This is a great self-service option because it doesn't require any kind of login. So even if you don't have a login to the support center yet, you can still search the Knowledge Center. It's got different ways you can search it in addition to its built-in search. There's the Knowledge Assistant, which is like an AI-powered conversational search, and does beyond just documentation. It also has resources like training videos and webinars, release notes, the release calendar, kind of anything related to the product, you're going to find it in the Knowledge Center. Another self-service option that we really want to highlight that's newer is the Known Issues portal. And this came out earlier this year. I'm not sure how many people have had a chance to take a look at this, but this is a great new self-service option where you can see the current status and the planned resolution timeline for known issues, product defects. And when we first opened this earlier in the year, it was available just for Alma and our content issues like CDI and Alma Data Services, but it has now been expanded to also include Primo, Rapido, and now Leganto as well. So this is a place where you can check and see if the issue you're experiencing is already recorded as a known issue, and if so, what is the planned timeline for resolution. Of course, if you search and you don't see the issue there, you can always open a support case and we will take a look at it. And then I just wanted to highlight too a couple of the resources in the self-service options that are more niche or subject specific. So there's the ideas exchange where you can propose enhancement ideas to our product management team for Alma, Primo, content, and all our other products. And the developers network at developers.xlibrisgroup.com where you can make use of our public REST APIs and do things with programming to extend Alma and Primo through custom apps. So those are just a handful of the available self-service options that we recommend. I want to talk a little bit about the process of opening cases and issues you might run into when opening cases, and then also best practices for opening cases. So the first thing to note, if you haven't opened Alma or Primo support cases before, logging into the support center is crucial. Our support center services multiple products and platforms, including ProQuest. Some of those platforms do not require a login, but the Ex Libris library software products like Alma and Primo always require a login. That's because we want to make sure we're working with authorized library staff who are authorized to represent your library. If you don't have a login or your login's not working, if you don't have a login, you can register from the login page and then contact your institution's system admin. They should be able to grant you permissions. If the access is not working, you can always, a bit of a workaround, but you can always create a case using any of the available platforms that don't require a login, like ProQuest, and let us know, what's not working with your support center account, and we'll be able to assist you. So that's just a key point to always remember to log in. So you'll see those categories for Alma and Primo. And then some of the common issues you might run into with opening support cases. So the first is authentication. So if you're not logged in, you're not going to see the assets, which are the Ex Libris product categories. So you won't see Alma and Primo and Leganto and Rapido. So logging into the support center is the resolution for that. If you're not able to log in, you can check with your system admin or open a case using one of the public support center product categories like ProQuest. If you're logged in, but you're still missing assets, so you're logged in, but you still don't see Alma or Primo, it probably indicates a problem with your account. Either your individual account is not linked to the correct institutional account, or there may be duplicates of your institutional account. These are always issues we can fix. In that case, you can open a case using ProQuest as the platform and choose any category and just describe the problem you're seeing. And a dedicated team who works on the support center issues will be able to assist you. Another problem you might run into is asset indecision. So not sure which asset to select for an issue. Maybe it happens in Primo, but you're not sure if it's really an Alma configuration issue or related to the content and the Alma data services. In general, we recommend not to stress this too much and just to report the problem where you see it. So if you see it in Primo, report it as Primo. If you see it in Alma, report it in Alma. If you're not sure, we can always reroute cases internally as needed between different teams. And then another issue you might have is priority selection regret. So you open the case with the default priority, which is medium, but the issue really, it's become a high priority issue. Maybe it's having a bigger impact than you initially expected. So in that case, there's not a way to edit the priority from within the support center, but you can always add a comment that requesting that we increase the priority to high, and we can do that. And the other option, you can always escalate that case. Callie's going to talk about escalation process a little bit later. So those are some common issues with the support center. If you have any of those issues, we're here to help. So just let us know and we can get the support center working more smoothly for you. So I also want to just plug the chat option. If you've mainly opened support cases but never used the chat option, the chat option is a great way to get quick, faster answers to how-to questions. It allows you to talk with a support analyst in real time, and it's built into Alma. So the way you're going to access it is from the chat bubble in the upper right of the Alma interface. And you'll have options to chat with Alma support analysts or Primo or Leganto support, as well as content support like CDI and Alma data services. If you don't see the chat option from within Alma, it may mean that your user role in Alma does not have the chat with support role. So that's something that you can get fixed through your administrator and get that chat with support role added so you're able to open chats. And then one other thing to know about chat is, some issues, especially with Alma, are pretty complex. And so what may seem like a quick question on the surface may turn out to be more complicated, and we're not able to resolve every issue in the chat. So if you open a chat and we're not able to answer your question or resolve the issue during the chat, a case is automatically created for you. We should let you know the number of that case, and then we'll follow up with you on that case. There's nothing else you need to do. The case is already automatically created from the chat. All right. So now I want to talk about some best practices for creating cases. And first, I just want to kind of go over the inputting the basic information on the form you see when you open a case in the support center. I want to highlight first the required fields. So those are the ones with the red asterisk next to them. Once you get to this, your platform and service and product will already be selected. For Alma and Primo support, you should have selected Ex Libris as the platform and service. And the product is going to be based on the asset you selected. So if you selected the Alma asset, the product will be set to Alma. The other required fields, there's case type. For that one, just choose your best intuition on what the case type is. In some cases, it may be obvious. If you see what is probably a defect after a release, you can list it as defect regression. Or if it's about the documentation, that's a relatively obvious case type. If you're not sure what case type to use, good default ones are configuration and technical inquiry. So if we see the case type needs to be updated, we'll update it on our end. And the case type, in addition to the categories, those are information that we collect because we're able to use that data for some reporting and see, these are the types of cases and the types of categories within the products that we're getting the most questions on. So that can inform, how we want to approach both our support service as well as things like training offerings in the future. The priority is required field, but it is set to medium by default. I'll talk a little bit about the priority on an upcoming slide, but just know that you can set it to high if it is a higher impact issue. And then the subject and description, this is where we really get into the details of the issue. And I'm going to talk in an upcoming slide on best practices for what kind of information to put in the description. But the subject, of course, is just a one-line description of the issue or the question. The description is, as much detail as possible you can provide on the particular issue. so that we can try to understand the issue, replicate the issue in cases where there's like a potential defect, and solve your question or problem. And then some of the optional fields, in addition to the category fields, the affected environment. This can be an important field if you're experiencing an issue in the sandbox in particular. This allows you to tell us that the case is about the sandbox. If we don't see that indication, we're probably going to assume you're talking about production. Of course, you may also indicate it's about the sandbox in your case description. And then the database collection, this is an important field if you're opening a case to the content support team, so the CDI support team or Alma Data Services. That field will allow you to tell them which collection, electronic collection in Alma is related to the case or the problem that you're seeing. So that is just a quick overview of the basic information in the case fields of the form to open a case. In addition, I wanted to go into a little bit into the priority. So we have 4 priorities you can choose from: system down, high, medium, and low. The default is medium. You can always increase to high if it's a more urgent or critical issue. So let us know, don't hesitate to use high if it's important. Having a big impact on your library operations or your end users. So those would be things like access issues, user-facing issues, issues that are affecting multiple library staff's ability to get things done. Whereas for, more like issues that are inconvenient but not a major disruption, you can choose medium. And low priority would be like for nice to know but not urgent questions. And then system down, Callie will talk more about this later, but this is the highest priority. And it's really for like issues where the system is completely inoperable or unusable, and it triggers a different workflow. So we recommend to use that priority only for those most severe issues where the system is down. Okay, so I wanted to talk about this is really getting back to the information that you will put in the description field of the case and some best practices we recommend. And we present this information to all new Alma users when they come on board and we do the switch to support presentation. So when you're thinking about what to include in the case, one thing is to think about defining the scope of the issue. If it's a problem or an issue, a potential defect, letting us know, does that affect all users or just a specific group? Letting us know the severity of the issue and the impact on your institution and your end users. That can really help us prioritize both the case, and if it goes into our development team cycle, it can help them prioritize the resolution of that issue. Defining the frequency, whether the problem is constant or happens only under certain conditions, that helps us with our efforts to replicate the issue. Going into replicating the issue, so describing the scenario in detail, letting us know the exact sequence of quick clicks that you do before you see an issue. We're always going to try to replicate or reproduce those issues because that's what our development team will want to see. They need to be able to replicate issues to solve them. So as much information as you can provide on how we can see the same issue that you're seeing is really helpful. Defining the behaviors. So sometimes this may seem obvious, but in other cases, it may not be. So let us know not just the actual behavior that is the problem, but also what you expect to see. So we can provide that comparison to the development team and make sure we're all on the same page about what the expected behavior should be according to the way the system works. Providing examples and details. So for Alma, including things like record numbers, job numbers, citations. For Primo, including things like links, screenshots, screenshots and screencasts really for all products. All of that helps us get back to replicating and understanding the scenario, especially if we're not able to see the same behavior when we're testing in our sandbox and testing environments that we have. If you do include screenshots, we recommend to show the full page and not just an extract. So that really helps us see the workflow or the context that the screenshot was taken in. So we can see, how you got to the page and not just the specific problem or error message. So show as much detail as you can in the screenshot. And then what was changed? So a lot of times if a new problem surfaces on the Monday after a Sunday release, the first Sunday of the month, it's pretty clear that that's a regression issue, especially if we're getting the same report from a lot of customers. But other times a problem may seem to come out of nowhere and it's not directly related to a new release, at least as far as we can see. So if you have any information on a configuration that changed or anything else that changed in Alma before you started seeing the problem, sharing those kind of details can really help our investigation. Providing test logins, we know this is not always possible and may depend on the policies of your institution, but if you are able to provide patron test logins that we can use to replicate an issue directly, let us know, and please don't put the information directly in the support center. We have a way to provide you a link to our secure file sharing server where that information can be provided as a file for those temporary test credentials, and that file is automatically deleted within 7 days, so it's never stored anywhere over time. And then our last recommendation is just to limit one issue per case. So sometimes things may really seem related, especially like in Primo with linking. It may seem like the same issue, but when we investigate, we might find that two different issues in the same case, they actually need to go to two different directions. One may be more of like a content issue, whereas the other is more of a development issue. So limiting one issue per case really helps us make sure we handle things most efficiently and don't lose track of, the status of any given issue that you've reported to us. So those are some recommendations we share on best practices when you're thinking about what to put in that description field when you're opening a case. So with that,
All right.
we'll pass it over to Callie.
Over
for
to
the
me,
next
right?
section. Yep.
All right. So the main things I'm going to talk about here, the support structure, the way our teams are structured, and also how our queue are structured, are relatively new. Really, we're about a year into these new structures, and so we're starting to settle into them. So if you go to that next slide, Jack, this is kind of an example of what it looks like when you open a case. When you open a case, it is going to go directly to the regional support experts. That's the teams that Jack and I are managing. And what we're the experts in are the basics of the product, the basic configurations, the documentation, but also we're trying to be the expert in you, because most of your cases are going to be handled by us and resolved by us. Right now, I think we average about 7 out of 10 cases are handled by the regional support team. If we cannot handle it, it's probably because it's a defect that needs development. Maybe it's a design question that isn't very clear in the documentation, or it's just something that we have to consult the higher level up to see what the expectation is for a certain workflow. In those cases, it is going to go on to what used to be called tier 2, but is now referred to as the subject matter experts. And this is where it's really a lot different than what we had before. Before, that tier 2 team was a regional team and much smaller because of that. What we've done is we've pooled all of our resources across the various regions and made them into one team. That's a big benefit, especially for Alma, because now we have people who can really focus in on just one aspect of the product and really become the expert. So when something gets sent to the SME team, the global team in Alma or Primo, it's a much, much larger team. And so we're hoping to work through cases faster and get to the expert quicker. So in Alma, for example, there are various teams within that global team. There's a fulfillment team, an acquisitions team, and a resource management team. And so what that means is if I'm in that fulfillment team, fulfillment is all I do every day, all day. Every single case I handle is fulfillment. So I really become the expert there. And then I also work very closely with the developers for fulfillment and the product management team for development. So I'm very aware of what's coming up in new releases, and I am the expert when it comes to all things fulfillment. And so that has been a real boon to how we are handling cases. And we've seen great improvement in the time that cases are being handled in that second tier, which we now call the subject matter experts. The one thing I do want to point out, there is an instance where your case will bypass that regional support team, and that is if it is a down system. We treat those very seriously, and so those get pushed up very quickly. And I'll talk about those in a minute. But first, I wanted to look at what it looks like when your case is opened and it goes to that regional team. If you go to the next slide, we are using something called a centralized queue. So this is a very rudimentary example of what that looks like. I don't know if you've ever been to the grocery store, you get into a line and the person in front of you, something goes amiss and now you're waiting 10 minutes and you see all the lines next to you move up at what seems like an increasing speed. It's very frustrating. And that's what we used to do. We used to have all these different lines. You got matched up with an analyst as soon as you opened a case. And maybe they had a lot of tough cases and you're waiting a little longer than you would have if you had been assigned to another analyst. And so we wanted to get rid of that. And what we did was we made one giant line When your case reaches the top of that line, it's picked up by the next available analyst. Now, we don't blindly just put things into this line. They are weighted by the priority that you choose, or maybe by something that you put in the description that alerts us that it needs to be handled a little bit quicker. But it will sit in a main centralized queue unassigned to any particular analyst. It will just be assigned to the team. It will be in an either new status or transferred if it was maybe a case that became a case from a chat, or if it maybe came from another team. It will stay in that new or transferred status until it is reviewed by the team's queue reviewer. So in our case for Alma, I'm currently the person who's reviewing our cases, but not always. But what I will do is I will review that case and I will see, is this with the correct team? Is there any question that I can ask right out of the gate? Should it be moved up in this queue? And then I will put in an initial response. And that's the same if it goes to the Primo team as well. Their queue managers is doing that initial review as well. And then it will sit in that queue until it reaches the top, and then it is picked up by an analyst. Now, if your case is in the central queue and you feel like maybe the situation has changed, you can always add a comment. We are still monitoring those cases. They're not in a black hole. They're not off to the side. They're still actively being watched and reviewed until they make it to an analyst. So if they're in that under review, they're not necessarily assigned to a specific analyst, but they have been looked at by somebody and they are waiting to be picked up. Once they are picked up, they will move into an in progress status. And that means we're working on it. If we have a question for you, we'll ask that question, but if you respond or add anything, it goes into update received. And then if you go to the next page, Jack, I wanted to go over the various, there's various pending statuses. So if we do have a question for you, we'll put it into pending customer input. And that means, hey, we're not gonna do anything further until we hear back from you. You do have 28 days to respond. There is an email that will remind you like, hey, we're still waiting for an answer on this one. If those 28 days pass and we don't hear from you, the case does automatically go into closing, but that's not the end of the story. If you were like, oh man, I meant to get back to you, I was on vacation or I was really busy, that's okay. You can just respond to the case and it will reopen for you. It'll say, do you want to clone this case? Or it will show as a clone case, but it will have all of the details of that case that closed. And we actually get a special email on our side to show us that, hey, this case that was closed is now reopened. So it's definitely not going to get lost in the shuffle. So pending input means we have a question for you. We're asking for more information. Awaiting customer confirmation is a little bit different. We think that we've actually solved the issue or answered your question. So we are really just kind of looking for you to say yep or no. So the email looks a little bit different. It says approve or reject. If you approve, great, the case closes, everyone's happy. If you reject, it will go into reopened, and then we'd ask that you'd add a comment to let us know what we missed. So because the intention of that one is a little bit different, it has a shorter turnaround. You have 14 days to respond until it goes into that auto close. But again, if it goes into auto close, that's okay. You can just respond to the email and we will have the case reopened. We'll get alerted and we'll be able to follow up. If at any time you need more time, you're like 28 days, I know I'm not going to make that cutoff, I got too much going on, you can actually choose to put it into pending customer testing, and that will keep it open for 3 months. And we'll see what that looks like on the next slide in a minute. I do just want to mention 2 other statuses that are more about your case when it is maybe a defect or when it's with that subject matter experts team, and that's pending development and pending release. Pending development means just what it sounds like. They are talking to development about your case. Support doesn't really see that case anymore. It's almost like it's been transferred to a third tier. So if you have a case that's in pending development, you haven't heard anything, you're getting a little anxious, you can always add a comment and that will pop it back to our attention. Otherwise, you're not going to really get an update on that case until development has a question, a suggestion, or they've given us a target fixed date. Now, when a target fixed date is first given us to us by development, it's just that, a target. It's not solid until they've actually tested it. It's gone through quality assurance, and then we will move the case into pending release. That's when you know it's a pretty sure thing. It's about 99.9% going to be in that release, and you're just kind of waiting for that release to come out. We'll leave the case in pending release a couple weeks after the release before we move it into auto close to give you some time to test it. But again, no matter the status, you can always choose pending customer testing if maybe you want to look at that fix and not let it go into auto close. I think the next section is where we're going to talk about escalations and system down. Yeah. All right. So let's go to that next slide there. So I had mentioned the pending customer testing button. You can see where it is here in the case view in the top right corner. Beneath that is the escalate button. This is also relatively new. If you look at the link that's on this slide, it'll talk about the whole escalation policy. And there is still an email where you can reach out to us directly if you've got a lot to say. But this is the shortcut. This is just going to the case, hitting that escalate button, and it will automatically add a big flag on our side. It will send the email to everyone involved with that product on the manager level. And we will be acting on that within 24 hours. We will give you a response and make sure that it is being looked at and handled. So when you click that escalate button, it will ask you for some information. The most common ones we see are probably that the severity or urgency has changed. But you see there is a free text box there for you to add some more information. If that doesn't meet your needs, you got more to say, go ahead and add a comment as well. We'll see that. And again, this goes to all the managers in that product. So if I'm out for the day, no worries. Somebody is definitely going to see it and act upon it. We have special reports just to track these. And I will say, don't hesitate if it's something that's urgent. Don't feel like you're going to get somebody in trouble. This helps us know what we need to look at right away, because we do have that central queue. We want to know what's urgent for you. So please don't hesitate to escalate. Obviously, we can't escalate everything because then nothing is escalated, but right now it's definitely not overused, and we do want to know what we need to look at right away. The next slide that I have is about down systems. So I don't know if you're aware of the system status page that we have for all the products. They are broken down by the region. So for our purposes, you would choose Americas, and then you would choose your server and then the various products. If there is a major event, it will be on this page. This page is open to anybody to log in and register. You don't need to be approved or authenticated by anyone. And then you can also sign up for email so that you don't have to actually physically go to this page. If there's an event, they'll email you and let you know. But you can hover over the various icons to see what's going on. So it could be that there's a down system and they're going to be giving updates until that's resolved, but it could be something smaller that you just might want to know about, like slow performance or maybe an issue with an analytics update. But this is a good page to bookmark. And again, it's free and open to anybody who wants to see it. So if you are experiencing what you think is a down system and you don't see anything on this page, then we do want to know about it as soon as possible. So if you go to that next slide, how to report a down system. You've gone to the system support page. You don't see that we are aware of anything, even though it is being monitored by our 24/7 hub. You could still be experiencing a down system that we haven't picked up in our monitoring. So please let us know as soon as possible. Jack mentioned that we have the priority of system down. I mentioned that when you pick that priority, it boosts your case all the way up, and we get paged right away. But sometimes things happen. The people who can open cases are out for the day. Believe me, that happens a lot, more than you'd think. That's okay. You can email or call the hub, and they will open a case on your behalf, and we'll start working on it right away. It could be that you can't get into Alma or Prima at all, but it also could be that a major component is down. We would still consider that a system down and want to know about it right away. So for example, you can get into Alma, but you can't check out any materials. That's pretty serious. We want to know about that as soon as possible. You can get into Primo, but you can't place any requests. Wow, that sounds like a pretty major piece of functionality that's missing. So again, we would consider that a down system. So do not hesitate if you think that it's a major component. We want to know, even if you don't see anything in the system status page. It could be something that's just local to you, and we need to see that as soon as possible to address it. And I think that is everything that I have. On to Matt.
All right. So I know we're short on time, so I'm going to try hustling through this and getting you back on track. You don't want to be late on your first session. So surveys are, I just want to promote this because surveys are so important to us, and getting the surveys back from you is the feedback that's our best feedback avenue from you on how we're doing. And we take every survey seriously, and we don't know what we don't know until you tell us, right? So what do we do with the surveys? So the positive surveys are great, and we look at those comments, and sometimes we promote the employees, and sometimes they get a little bit of a reward on it, on their survey scores and things like that. So we do recognize the analysts on that side of it, especially the comments. For dissatisfied ones that are not satisfied. So you can have the satisfied, dissatisfied, and neutral. Neutral are considered not satisfied, but if we see those and we see a score of a 2 or a 1, then we as managers reach out to the person who submitted that survey. And we will actually, you'll get an email from either Jack, Kelly, or myself and say, hey, you know what, we saw that you were unhappy. Can we have a discussion? Because we want to make sure that, hey, why were you unhappy? And one of the things that we like to get is comments. And the ones that are unhappy, if I see that, it's a survey of a 1 and there's no comments, I'm like, what's the problem? So the feedback is really, really important to us. And we look at every dissatisfied survey. I'm telling you, there's a report that goes out every week, and we look at them and we take them seriously, and no one gets fired over them, but it helps us support you better in the long run. So our current satisfaction rate is overall, without without the global team, in North America, we're about 93.6% satisfaction rate, which for a customer service organization, that's pretty high, in global in the industry standards. And then for the analysts that we get, because you can do overall and you can do the analysts, right? You could do, there's two surveys that you fill out at one time. So we're at 96.1% with the analyst satisfaction. So that tells me we're doing our job, but here's the crux. The participation rate is 16.8%. My goal for the year for my key performance indicators is about 20%. We wanted to get up to 20%. We're still not there. I understand that, an email goes out right when you close it or the next day, and the timing's not great. So you'll get the survey and you'll be like, what the heck is this? And so we need to come up with better ways to do that. And then again, comments in the survey are very, very important. So with that, we're going to hit the next slide, Jack, so we can get this moving. I think we got 1 minute left. I want to take questions if we can. But so AI and support. AI is the buzzword for everything, right? We're putting AI in all of our products. We're doing, AIs across the board. And so what are we doing in AI? On the customer-facing side of the house, Knowledge Assist, I put AI Assist because I think that's where we're going to be going with this. Right now, there's not a lot of, when you chat or anything like that, that's all still human in behind the scenes. But when you do the Knowledge Assist and you're looking up things, that's using AI to kind of go off of training, to go off of our knowledge articles and pull that together for you as a person to say, hey, this is some information that you could use to resolve your issue. I would like to get that tied into the known issues portal as well. So there's opportunities there. If someone's like, why don't you search the cases? Well, we can't search the cases right now because we need, you have PII issues, and somebody may have opened a case and they don't want that information getting out. But we are continually looking at ways to improve support by AI efficiencies, not replacing humans. You will always get a human to react to your cases and things like that. So with that, we use it a lot more internally and with quality management. So we do quality management. So what we do on the backside, this is opening the back door, kind of like, hey, let you in, and how we kind of manage it. But managers are required to review cases with analysts on how they answer the question, the communication, and all those things. There's 5 criteria that we measure it on, and then they review it with them. Just say, hey, look at this case, and go that. So we're using AI. We're trying AI to say, hey, can you do some analysis on these cases, and then present it to the manager, so that saves the manager time. They don't have to go through every case and do that. We use it to assist analysts, and again, a lot of it is we're doing a lot of things in the background where an analyst will say, hey, this is the case, and they'll get they'll do Ask AI, and they'll come back, and we do a lot of measuring on what's the quality that we're getting back from AI on trying to resolve cases, and we score them. So we're doing a lot of things in the background to just hey, what's going on? How does it work? And I'll tell you, the scoring that we got back is AI doesn't do as good a job as analysis as the analysts, right? So the analysts are like, this is like, a third grader talking to somebody that's a college graduate type stuff that we're getting back. But it does help. It helps facilitate things a little bit better. We look at customer trends and then satisfaction as well. Like why we're creating dashboards on why is this consortium unhappy? You know, you can say, all right, well, they're, you know, these are the trends we're doing. So we're doing a lot of that in the background just to figure out, you know, where we can make support more efficient and provide a higher level of support. But at the end of the day, it's all of the support you're getting is all analyst driven, and we have no plans on, you know, freeing up headcount. Actually, I'm hiring headcount, right? So, you know what I mean? So it's not that, but I think if, you know, just like with our product lines, if we're not looking at how we can effectively use AI, we'll be behind the scene. We'll be way behind the power curve when it really does come up. So that's with our AI. All right, next slide. I know we're over time, but I just want to, I'll brush over these because we talked about these, but we actively work with the Luna Igloo Support Advisory Group and get things. And we do have some initiatives we're working on with them. I think it's going to be good for the next year, right? They had that survey prior to Luna. You filled it out. You know, what are some of the pain points, and we're working with them to get more to align where we need to focus our efforts for our customers, right? The external type of stuff that we need to do. So, and another thing is the Americas team. So we are no longer the North America team. And Jack and Kelly said, "Ah, they're regional." Well, guess what? They own the Americas, so they're overseeing Latin America support as well. So my title now is, I think, the Americas Director of Customer Care. So Jack and Kelly got a big more larger responsibility, and you know, I think we're all really excited about it, to leverage our resources across the Americas. And so, you know, so be careful what you wish for, because it's a lot more work, right? And same pay. So it's all good, and we're excited to do that and work with our counterparts in Latin America. So, you know, internal, we talked some other things like, you know, the queues, different ways to work with customers, and how we're constantly working on our getting our internal systems better so that we can be more efficient and be more reactive to our customers. You know, and Christina, I see your face up there, so I'm just going to say outreach to customers, right? You know, you press this a lot. And so we're always looking for ways to work with customers. This was one way of getting our names out there. You know, do we get our analysts out there more? Do we do, you know, a day in the life of an analyst? We talked about that. What are some interesting things? And that feedback is, all right, I think I'm getting the hook. So, proactive trends, status consortia, we're working on that. Centralized queue, we talked about that. Structure, we talked. All right, so I just want to wrap this up and say, hey, thank you. Sorry we couldn't take any questions, but we really, really appreciate your time and being able to be out there, because at the end of the day, we are there for you, and we really do like working with our customers and talking to our customers. So thank you very much. Thanks, Jack and Callie, for presenting today. All right, bye-bye, everyone.